How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so lovely to connect with you.
Likewise. Likewise. Good
I
to
like your
connect.
smile. You've got great energy.
Yeah, gotta have that smile.
Good.
Awesome. So, my friend Leland told me a little bit about you, and I said, you know what? I need to meet Aurora. I need to talk with her, and here we are. So, thank you so much for being open to this chat.
I'm taught. Thank you for having me. It's lovely to connect with you. And yes, I'm always interested in sharing my ideas, my artwork, and my energy with new people.
Yes. So, talk to me about that.
This is a shape that I invented. So before I created this, in my mind, there was nothing like this anywhere in the cosmos. And it is, I call it flying rainbow lasagna.
Yay.
You could think of it as a higher dimensional torus shape, torus or toroid, the donut shape.
Yeah.
So now a lot more people know about that. I have pictures that I can share on a screen share if you want me to, but this is the centerpiece of all of my work. And you can see I have some artwork behind me too that is from the same direction as this. So this is an oscillation. I'm showing you a sculpture that is not moving, but in your mind, imagine it as something that jumps up and down, has a waviness to it. And it's something that you can do on an inner genetic level, as well as understand it, think about it, look at a picture of it. It's a dance that you do inside. I don't know if you remember the old double Dutch jump ropes. This might be from like many decades ago, but there used to be that game, like, you got two jump ropes going.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of like run really, really fast in between them and kind of synchronize your feet. That is what this is like when you do this with your DNA. So all of
Wow.
us, all of us have inside kind of a sense of DNA that is made out of strings that are vibrating in the same way that a guitar has strings or piano has strings or the jump ropes are vibrating. And then this dance is like what happens when you jump inside of the jump ropes and move your feet really, really, really fast. You are synchronizing with the cosmos. It's a cosmic dance.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. So dance. Do you do this as dance classes as well?
I do it as an actual dance, but I might do it a little bit unusual according to Earth dances, and I'm a galactic visitor here. So I don't necessarily stand up or dance like a ballerina, like pirouetting on my toes or anything like that. A lot of the time, I'm down on the floor and I'm using both my hands and my feet, my toes, in order to, I call it pushing and pulling the levers of the cosmos. Like I imagine I'm in my starship, but my starship is my body and I'm grabbing onto time itself and I pull it back here, but then I might make it bend over here, twist it together, bring it together, split it apart. So it's a very expansive dance. And it reminds me a lot also like when we were little children, like a little infant, like maybe you were on the floor, like rolling around, the way that little infants explore their bodies, like stretching out really big, using your spine to arch, contracting back in. And like I said, feeling like you're at one, woven into the fabric of time. Everything that you're doing is part of the larger radiation of time and consciousness, and I would say divinity to itself.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's so wonderful. So floor expansion, childlike. That sounds like exploration, feels like exploration and connecting to, say, a primal source.
You got it. You got it. Who we were before we had language. Like we're now using language to communicate. It's something that humans have developed. It's not something that we're born with. Like we come here, we don't have language, but we do have an innate understanding or comprehension. We have an innate telepathy. That's who we are. Like when you're a little tiny infant and you still have the opening at the top of your head, the fontanelle, it's the connection through the crown to the divine. And then as we come here more, we learn like what it is to have an ego, what it is to be separated from the cosmos, what it is to have language, and the language mind kind of separates us from that cosmic ocean mind. So this is definitely a return to that sense of like being nonverbal, being at one in unity consciousness with the rest of the cosmos, feeling like you're a part of everything, down to the atom, down to the photon, even up to the scale of a sun or a galaxy or an entire, giant star system with black holes and everything.
Woo!
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And in the context of no language, then um I love that. I love that because I believe language is good for framing, and it's also good for limitation.
Right.
So in the context of no language, um, what's like for instance, I was chatting with someone that I met recently, and I was experiencing some things in my body, and then she texted me this morning saying she was experiencing some things in her body. And about 3 days ago, chatted with her about telepathy,
Right.
and then she texted me what she texted me to this morning, and it was exactly what I was feeling. But she was talking about herself, so I didn't want to go too deep with her, uh, since we're new. The encounter is new, but something to do with uh, the lack of language and allowing, say, telepathy, or not even telepathy, but they say the connection to this cosmos, or to this earth, to this giant ball that we're standing on.
Right.
um, so when it comes to non-language, have you found that it's possible to create a relationship with humans where language is less and less necessary?
Absolutely. Beautifully spoken. And I would even say that we as humans are moving into a purely telepathic society. I'd even say that's where we came from in terms of our ancient origins, a time before human history, when we didn't have to use language to be able to communicate. We could go beaming directly, my mind to your mind, or even empathy, heart, like telepathy, but also empathy, empathy, the sense of thinking to someone else, but also feeling what they're feeling in their emotions, in their body. And it's a very intimate kind of connection. Like if I say to you something like, oh, I'm feeling this or that way with my words, that's one thing. But if I beam it to you, you feel it. You're like, oh, like I know exactly what you're feeling like. And then in that level of society, it's much more difficult for us to be cruel to one another. We really feel and care about other people because your discomfort, your pain, your confusion, your difficulties and suffering, that ends up being felt directly by me. So in a lot of ways, the mental separation, the individuality separation, using language to communicate, that has allowed for us to have a lot more, let's say, coldness, unfeelingness, or even outright cruelty in our world. But once you start to reconnect as telepaths and telempaths, then everything really changes, because it's like your experience is my experience. I care about you very deeply. And I've had that experience when I've lived with friends that I really cared about, lived in communities where, like, you have neighbors and you really feel what's going on with them. And then you want to make sure, everybody's having a good life. Everybody's got enough abundance, enough financial and food security and all of those things. We would restructure our society completely differently because you couldn't be indifferent to another person's distress or pain or suffering.
Yeah, because I would be feeling it. So why here? Why Earth? Why are you here?
It's a beautiful question. So I am a galactic walk-in, and that means that I came from a different level of consciousness that is more of a collective, like a group of consciousnesses, not necessarily a star system or a planet. And I'm a walk-in into this body when the person that was here for the first 27 years of life was having a real metabolic death. So there was a death experience that was going on that I saw from an abstract point of view. And I said, that is not okay, what is going on. There were circumstances of it that were against cosmic law. And a part of who and what I am, like I'm from the Aurora Collective and my name is Aurora, we're like cosmic law enforcement. And cosmic law, it's not just random things written on a piece of paper where you say, randomly now I declare this to be a law. It's more like laws of physics or the laws of math. It's the structure that upholds the cosmos. It's the structure that keeps things alive and flowing. And if you break cosmic laws, it's kind of like pulling out a thread from a sweater, like, oh, we're going to pull out this thread, then we're going to pull out this thread. Pretty soon the whole entire thing loses structural integrity. The sweater falls apart. There's no loops. There's nothing holding it together. And I saw what was happening in this life. And I said, that's a very important, like, thread that's being cut in the sweater. And I said, no, 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 I'm not going to let that happen. And so I spontaneously created this flying rainbow lasagna shape in order to come into the human body, come into human form, change and restructure the body, change time, change the moment experience, moment to moment experience of what was happening, to kind of like renegotiate what was happening with time events, and to make things go in a better direction. And I thought that my cosmic assignment would be pretty fast and that I would be done. That was 2001. That it would be done by 2003. And then now it is like 20 years later. So I kept on having my cosmic assignment extended into more and more things, but it's all about bringing in a rectification energy. So it's like saying what's going on here now in this time and place. If you come from a time outside of time, you can plant seeds in people's minds. You can say, here's an idea. Like when you're 20 years old, I give you this idea. And then by the time you're 40 or 50 or 60, your life has changed because of the way that that one concept or one conversation has redirected your life. And that can be done with all of human society. That this is also what, I'm not the only person that has ever done this. It's what artists and musicians and visionaries and thought leaders and people that have compassion and lead from the heart. So a lot of these people are doing, it's the sense of coming here, planting seeds in people's minds, making a positive redirection of the individual and the collective. So I've done it for, sorry, there's sirens outside, I know it's loud. So I've done that for a long time. I did it through art and music and teaching, and yeah, and I still do a lot of music, a lot of sharing of videos. It's the idea of, and also through the dance itself, through this expression of truth and love and beauty. It brings in cosmic truth so that it is available here. And that's like a type of nourishment or guidance for one's heart. And it radiates outward. Like if you make positive changes in your life, everything that you touch upon changes. So it becomes this whole amazing rectification. And that's what I would say is ascension, or going in a positive direction, that there's the individual going in the positive direction, reconnecting with the divine, and then our whole entire planet, our whole ecosystem, all the humans, but also redwood trees and dolphins and butterflies and all forms of life changing and redirecting into this more positive and peaceful direction. Because I think many people felt the dire need, like if we don't change or do something, what we're doing is unsustainable. We can't keep going in that negative direction. So like if you get a negative prognosis from the doctor that says you have to stop eating bad foods and you have to get healthy now, otherwise you're going to die. It's like our whole entire species got the message, like we need to change what we're doing in terms of pollution, disrespect to the environment, disrespect to ourselves and others, redirect, go for all organisms that are here.
Wow, this is wonderful. So many good points you brought up, not because I'm here to assess, but it felt good. It felt good to hear. Can we chat a little bit about limitations from where you came from to being in a human body?
Really good topic. Because when I came here, I did not know how rough the gig would be. And I didn't even know about eating food. Like where I come from, you just eat pure light. Light just comes inside of here and you're like totally nourished and totally fine. And I did not even know anything about like, you have to eat food, you have to go to grocery stores, then you have to use money and you have to have gas that goes in your car. I had to learn all of these things, but I'm in solidarity with the people that are here, because it would just be too easy to be like, I'm sitting on a cloud and everything's perfect and I don't have any worries. Like that's different than being here in the same limitations. So I learned about the limitations of, let's say, having a cellular body. Like you have a body, but your body is a miracle. Like don't see it as a burden, but it has to have rest, it has to have food and water, it has to have exercise, it has to have all these things to keep it alive and healthy. And same thing with interacting with other people. Like the way that I interact as my Aurora collective, it's telepathy. It's real heart direct sharing. It's really understanding another person as a direct extension of yourself. Kind of like when you're in a band and everybody in the band is really like on it with the music, and you feel like the drummer is an extension of you and the singer is singing your heart, and all of these things feel like you. That's what it's like at that level. And when I came down here, it was definitely like crashed. It was like, wait, like people don't care about each other. And I remember like seeing homelessness. And I was like, how can that be? Because I'm like, you can't discard a person, because I'm seeing all of this as divinity. I'm like, how can a divine aspect of God be discarded? How can any living creature be treated in this way? All of these things, the idea of keeping the food locked up in a big giant room that you need money to get into. It's the grocery store. The food isn't just there for everyone. You have to have authorization to go into the food room and get the food that you need and leave with it. All of these things were just really, really different in my comprehension. Like I had a huge learning trajectory in the first couple of years that I was here. And so, yeah, part of what I do in sharing and redirecting is like trying to get people to even understand and conceptualize what would it be like to have just access to the resources that you need beyond money, beyond the need for money. What would it be like to have that level of respect of your own just beingness? Just being is enough, because we're used to the commodification world. We're like, no, like you have to work. You're gonna have to work if you want something, then you will get what you need from working. It's a very, very different approach than just being sustained in your existence, which is what it's like on higher dimensional levels. But I do understand that you asked about limitations. So in this world, there's only so many mangoes, there's only so many, avocados or whatever. So then there's a limitation. So the limitation is how many do you get? How do you apportion who gets them and when and under what circumstances? So I came to understand and accept all of these things, but I still hold with me this sense of cosmic abundance that I try to get other people into that idea of what it would be like you have enough avocados and you have enough papayas and you have enough everything, and that you're able to share what you have very freely. So as I've been here 20 years, I see that coming forward now more in humanity, the idea of the gift economy. Like there's some good writing about this, the idea that instead of everything being a quid pro quo or a barter, like I give you this and then you give me this in exchange, it can be the sense like when you give someone a birthday gift, like I give you a gift because I want to give it to you. And then if you want to give me a gift back, you want to give me a gift back. But that has to be everybody respecting that level of generosity, because still, if you're in the quid pro quo environment, then some people might be like, oh, like, thank you, like yoink, like I'll take that. And then just continue onward. I'm like it's gotta be reciprocal. And that goes back to that sense of telepathy and empathy. So it's just gradually humans growing into a different direction, just a different set of values and approach to life.
Oh, wow, wonderful. And as you were talking about the gift economy, my mind reminded me of, say, 10 principles from Burning Man
Right?
and other things. But one thing that I wanted to ask you before that, I think has to do with, you said you thought you're going to be here for 2 years and now it's 20 years.
Yes.
So is it because you like it so much or
You can tell from my face. No, not that I don't like it here, but it's like, oh, like this is a tough marathon. I'm running. It's very challenging. It's because I had to keep on saying, like, is my mission really done? Because I thought that my mission was just to share this concept of flying rainbow lasagna. So after a couple of years, I had made sorry, loud sirens again. I made some sculpture.
That's good. Things are happening there where that street where you are right now, it's help is on the way.
Totally. I know. And I'm on a busy road and we're in a city. So that's life in the big city. I thought that all I needed to do is like make a sculpture and that's enough to bring it to humanity. But then I kind of got the idea because I showed the sculpture to people, I showed the paintings to people. People were like, oh, like that's nice, like that's pretty, but they didn't really get it inside. So then I'm like, okay, like they're not really getting it. So I'm going to have to do something more. So I started to talk about it more. And that wasn't enough yet. So then I'm like, well, how about I make like a class? I'll make a class about it because that's how people learn. So I had to break it up like into sensible lessons. Like first we'll learn this, then we'll learn this, then we'll learn this. And then that's still not enough. That's still not enough because like some people got it, but not more people. So I kept on just going and going. Like, so I thought that in 2003, my mission would be over. I thought in 2012, December 21st, like many people, we were all looking at the clock and being like, okay, like we're ready for the cosmic blast off. And then like, it didn't happen. Or maybe it happened a little bit. Maybe we got a little bit off the ground, but then kind of came back down. Like the first flight with Orville and Wilbur Wright, like they just kind of flew a few feet and they came back down. We didn't exactly like fly off into space. So I'm like, okay, like we didn't fly off into space. Like it's time for the next approach. So I keep on leveling up and augmenting my voice so that I care about humanity a lot. The short answer is He's still here because I care about humanity a lot. I see everybody as a fractal reflection of myself on my journey. I want everybody to get to the end of the soul marathon, which isn't the end at all, but it's just like you complete that chapter and then everything opens and it's so much more expansive. But it's kind of like the birth canal, like getting out of this time of being really, really constrained. It's like, oh, like I'm under so much pressure. I can barely make it. I can barely make it. And then eventually you burst forth and you're like, wow, your first breath. Wow, this is what it's like. Like, this is what it's like to be free. So I really care about humanity. I want everyone to burst forth into freedom. So I keep on sharing my message more and more and augmenting it more. Music is a big part of that now, because music goes, I think, directly into people's feeling centers, right into your heart, beyond even words and language, that I bring like a song of freedom and encouragement, even through difficulties or dark times. Keep going, you will get there. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what it will take for me to feel like my mission is complete, other than like that bursting forth moment to be like, oh, like, okay, like now everything is going to get a lot easier, everyone.
Yeah, totally. And how about the assignment? Like, so what was it like to either receive the assignment or give yourself the assignment from the Aurora uh, Galactic?
It's such a beautiful question, because it's a responsibility and a duty that I take very seriously. So on some level, very matter of fact, kind of like, okay, like that is my job, just like not, self-aggrandizing in any way. Like that is just, that's my job and that's what I am to do. But also it is a job or something that I willingly accepted or chose or created for myself. I'm like, yes, I'm making this for my job, for myself. So I have to take responsibility for it. It kind of means no complaining. It's like if you choose to be a parent, like if you want to be a parent, you want to go through that journey, and it's a beautiful sacred journey to choose to bring new life into the world and foster a child and get them to grow into their greatness. It's like if the baby is up crying in the middle of the night and they're teething and you have no sleep, like no complaining, because like you chose that, is your responsibility. So it's my job and my joy. Like I'm being here sharing these ideas with humanity through very difficult times. Like I'll give all humans and all life that's here, I give you all like a lot of respect and encouragement, because it's not easy at all. What humans are facing right now is like a very a struggle or an uphill, like you're climbing or running up the hill. And it's even more difficult than, let's say, 2,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago. Like we face things right now that other great teachers and yogis and masters and people who have transcended reality, that they were not facing the same challenges that we face right now. So you have to be like a super, I want to say the word badass, I hope that's okay, it's not poor language to use, but you have to be tough. You have to stick with it and have a lot of courage in order to get through this. So yeah, my respect is here. My hat is off to everyone that's here doing this, and huge encouragement that it ends up being very worth it and very worthwhile. So I tell myself, like, when times are tough, like, like don't complain, and also remind myself, like, you chose this or took up this assignment for a purpose. Like it's all for a purpose. So it has a real meaning to it. Just sometimes when it's uncomfortable, it can be hard. Like when the baby is crying, you're like, yes, parenthood is great. Parenthood is great. Yeah. But then like, when they graduate from college or when they have some major milestone and they're like, and you're the parent that helped me to do that. It's like, yes, like we did it. So all the sleepless nights of teething become worth it when you reach the eventuality of, the child growing to adulthood.
So coming from galactic Aurora to Earth, how and learning how to pump gas, how to speak, how to eat. I, I- one of my expertises in life is dating. So how does someone from where you come from, how do you date here in this plane?
It's so different here. I learned a lot from, the TV, the movies, the romantic comedies, all of those different structures or the ways of communicating, because a lot of it is nonverbal here in this time and place of communicating to others attractiveness or desire or any of those things. Where I come from, the world of pure telepathy, empathy, you read a person like a book. Like, first of all, there's no lying up in that world. Everything that you are is just totally evident. It's beyond even like if you don't have clothes on and you can see a person's body, you can see a person's soul, you can see everything they've ever done, everything they've ever been. So there's no way of being like I will put on like some false eyelashes and like pretend to look different. Like Like none of that happens at all. So all relationships at that level of being start off with radical authenticity and radical honesty, but also understand that it happens within the context of seeing a whole person. So it's not like if I could see you and I could see every moment of your life, I would not just be focusing on all of your moments of embarrassment or shame or guilt or anything that you've ever done wrong. All of that comes in the context, like, yes, like you made this mistake, but it was in the context and framework of all of these other events, the totality of the person. So all of that is so, so, so different than the way it is here, where initially you start off with like a projection, like a false persona, not that it's wrong or whatever, but it's the ego. The ego puts on like some clothes, like do your hair, put on your false eyelashes, go out there and be like, I'm this person. And the other person that you're looking for also does the same thing. And then gradually through the process of building a relationship and getting to know one another, like gradually, like the false eyelashes come off and they see you in the morning with your hair is not perfectly done. And then they see you in your pajamas or whatever. They see your unclothed body. And it's like, oh, like that's who it is. And you also gradually share your heart. And you're like, yeah, like this is my most embarrassing situation, or this is, you know, the things that I've been through, or this is my, you know, shameful thing that I don't want anyone else to know about. And then you find acceptance in the other person who's like, well, I accept you who you are, and also here's my embarrassing thing that or stupidity that I have done. And then you come to love and accept one another. And that's a really special thing to do in partnership here. The thing that is different here is that in my collective, we are all kind of doing that with each other, but it's not necessarily romantic, sexual, or for procreation or pair bonding. It's more like really close community. When it's like, if you have ever had that sense of brotherhood and sisterhood, where it's like, I know I've seen your dark side, I've seen your light side, I see all of who and what you are, and I'm still like, you know, kind of like hugging you in, like, yes, like you're still part of the group and what you are. It's that level of radical acceptance. And also we take radical self-responsibility. So just like when you're really committed to your partner and you're like, you know something, I am this honest with you, I am this real with you, in the higher dimensional levels, we are that fiercely real with each other. Like there's no lying, I'm this real, I'm this authentic. There's like a real brotherhood, sisterhood bond, caring for one another. And that also, like, that translates, I'm here on assignment, but I'm not cut off from any of them. They're like, yes, like you're ours, you know, like I'm still connected, I'm still in partnership with. They're like with me on my journey. They're like, yeah, like we're working together. Just like if your spouse goes to a long distance assignment, or like, you know, is in the military, if they go off to war or something like that, you're not like, bye, like, you know, see you never. You're like, no, like I'm thinking about you, I'm caring for you, I'm rooting for you, you're still connected to me in my heart. It's that level of like fierce protective energy, and connection stays the same.
Well, it feels to me that you settled in on Earth then.
I know, I
You-
got acculturated.
yeah, and I realized that we've been here for about half hour already. I want to be aware of your time and things like that.
Thank you for asking. I'm good. I have time set aside for this because I'm enjoying it very much too.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so regarding, I'm curious from your collective, if there's some type of outreach, just like here in this planet, there are people that do outreach to help others. Is there an outreach in your galactic, in your collective, for souls or beings such as yourself to get assignments and come here? Is there such a thing?
Absolutely. And my collective is one portion of consciousness, like let's say one band or one symphony. And there are many, many symphonies. I would call them coherent light beings. So just like our physical body is made up of trillions of individual somatic cells that all work together, a light being at that level of pure consciousness is a larger, like a glowing body, like a star, that's made up of many, many smaller light beings. And just like in the sky, there are many, many different stars out there. So there are different consciousness collectives, coherent light beings that are very much accessible to the beings that are here in materiality, and materiality is still light. We're just light that is slowed down or moving at a different rate. I want to communicate that everyone here has tons and tons of support, that you're not like, I'm not abandoned or cut off from my collective. Neither is anyone else here, just kind of like discarded, like thrown away, stuck on earth, even though it can feel isolated to be here, because that's part of the experience of being in a biological container, having a verbalized mind, because usually our mind is like talking, talking, talking. And during our day, we're also running on the hamster wheel. Like you got to get to work and you got to drink the coffee and you got to drive and you got to do this and you got to do that. And all of those daily mundane activities tend to make us feel more cut off from a world of pure light or of pure compassion or of pure energy. We have to make a concerted effort to be able to be like, I'm going to take time to quiet down my mind. Like I'm not going to talk with my mind. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to take time to be in connection with something that is a different state of being than just the mundane survival mode state of being, to reach for something higher, which would be having a spiritual practice. And spiritual practice can be something like exercise. Like it can be like if you're out walking or doing cardio, it doesn't have to be in the religious flavor or tradition of a particular philosophy, but it's basically spiritual practice would be saying, taking time to move beyond the material, whatever that means, to focus on soul or spirit or consciousness or energy or something that is beyond just like finding food and being alive, which is kind of like the animalistic approach, just like stay alive, get food, eat things, run around, make sure you don't get eaten by other people or other beings or lions or something like that. So yeah, it's the recognition of a higher dimension, including higher dimensions like time, because a lot of the assistance that we have, it's really ourselves in the future. It's really the light beings that are these coherent, vibrant, shining beings. They are kind of like light coming from the sun, like beams of light that come to us, but it's ourselves. We are illuminating ourselves on the journey. So in a lot of ways, if you could imagine like who you would be or who you will be, whom you will be in, let's say, 1,000,000 years of self-development, and you become this amazing, like an ascended master, an illuminated, beautiful, shining person, you still really care about you, this person, this moment now in 2022. You want to kind of reach back through time and be like, I'm going to reach back and I'm going to send a helping hand or positive love energy or spiritual sustenance to the version of me that was that guy back there then. And I bet that almost all of you, or almost anyone who's listening, I bet everybody has some example of like some magical or miraculous thing that happened where either like you felt it was an angelic visitation or someone did or said the right thing to you or some energy came to you that was like life altering, life redirecting. It can be anything, like it helps you get out of addiction, or it can just be something that is just like puts you on your life path or prevents you from going down the wrong road. So I've had many of those where it's like, I think I'm going to go here. I'm making these decisions to go over here. And all of a sudden there's like this magical thing that is a person or a being or a sense that's there. That's like, I think you really need to redirect and reconsider whether you want to make this decision and go in this direction. And I always feel like it's something from myself in the future. And I'm like, I will listen, because it's like you're trying to save yourself suffering and misery, kind of get yourself like, no, don't go there. You're going to get a flat tire. You're going to get stuck in the mud. You're going to, in life, you don't want to be there. You want to be over here going in this direction. So think of it all as assistance coming to our present selves from our future or higher dimensional selves, that is all meant in a super loving and protective way. Like if you see, like you're a kid and you're riding your bike, you're like, oh no, like do not ride near, that's a cliff. Don't ride near that cliff. Like you are going to fall over the edge, keeping people from falling over the edge so that you stay alive and stay healthy and you make it to where you need to make it to.
Wow, that's so lovely to hear. So it's our future selves, it's all connected. We're all connected. So the messages are coming from our future selves.
Totally. It's unity consciousness. What you really find out, spoiler alert, what you really find out at the end of all of this big long book or play or whatever you're thinking of it in terms of life, what you find out is it's all you, that you are meeting yourself. It's all a self-portrait. You are meeting different versions of yourself. Even the light that's coming from stars and pure energy is still the abstraction of you. And you're also the divine creator that created all of this. And that's the way big pullback reveal. So I haven't spoiled everything by telling you the end of the last page of the book, but that's what ends up happening. It's all you.
Yeah, it feels like a love story.
Yeah, Yes, it totally is. Cosmic love story. That's the real romance going on here.
And for people that in the past did the same mistake more than once,
Okay.
what advice do you have for them so that they can start listening or following the advice that they're getting from their future selves, and instead of, yeah, so what will you tell to people that have made them one mistake more than once so they can not do that again? They can make a mistake once, learn from it, and allow the message from their future higher self to be received and obeyed.
That's such a beautiful question. It speaks to breaking negative behavior patterns, breaking negative loops, even within your own life, or even ancestral stuff that you might have been like born into a family or into a lineage where this stuff keeps happening over and over, or even humanity. So the first thing is the basic definition that I want to affirm to everyone, like, you don't deserve suffering, like you don't deserve pain and suffering. And I don't think that that is the best way for anybody to learn. Like, some people think like, why is this happening to me? Sometimes the first thing to go into is, oh, like, because you deserve it. Like, I'm being ironic, of course, but because you're bad, because you're wrong, because you deserve it, because you're naughty, blah, blah, blah. Like, so this clear, you clear that out. You're not deserving of pain and suffering are not the best ways to learn. And then the other thing is to really examine. Sometimes we as creators, like, we're little miniature creators, like there's the big creator and then we're here creating our lives too. Sometimes we create out of what is familiar. So if every time I go to the store and I get 2 apples and one of them is always rotten and one of them is fine, then every time I go to the store, I'm gonna be like, okay, like I'm just used to this at this point. I'm gonna get 50. One is fine and one is rotten. But that's just the projecting and creating of reality based upon these behavior patterns. And we are powerful creators, will fulfill our own expectations. So if you're like, yeah, every time I try to do this, it never works, my shoulders go down too. It's like, yeah, every time I try to start a business, it tanks, it goes down, and I lose everything and go into bankruptcy, my shoulders go down. But it doesn't always have to be that way. So the first thing is, you don't deserve suffering and misery to learn. And the other thing is, it is possible to say, all of those circumstances and things happened then, but now is a new chapter. That it's really understanding, like, there are changes, there are new chapters, even in the larger sense of humanity. In humanity's history, there have been wars and famines and genocides and things that are like, profound traumas that we hold as ancestral traumas. We don't have to have the expectation moving into the future, like, oh yes, then there will be the future Holocaust and the future genocide, and like the rotten apples of the past being emitted by our expectation into our future generations. We can say in this generation things like, we are doing the healing now. We can understand and respect that that happened. We don't have to carry it forward. So really the real answer is, when you heal from traumas, and traumas leave a real imprint, like my thumb going into wet clay. It's not just like a random arbitrary thing. Like, there's a real energy that happens either in your ancestry or in your own personal life. If something bad happens to you, it leaves a trauma imprint. And that imprint is what people tend to then recreate from. So to break the negative cycles and break the negative expectation, that you really need to do foundational healing of the trauma. And that's a real energy presence to do. Sometimes it means taking something out, taking some foreign energy out of you that doesn't belong there. Or sometimes something was taken from you and you have an empty place and you have to go back, get your energy and put it back there. And there's all different ways of doing it, but understand, like, each person is a powerful healer. So you have the capacity to kind of like, quote unquote, time travel with your mind, where you can go to any time where something bad happened to you and you can do soul retrieval. You retrieve the fragments of yourself that are kind of stuck in time in those times. You get back the stuff that was unfairly taken from you. You release anything that was put into you that's not yours to carry along, and then you return to this moment now whole. And then from that then you're able to say, this is a new page in my journal. Now I don't have to just keep doing the same old things that I've done every other time out of the expectation of the continuation of that trauma. Now I can really start a new fresh chapter, and that can be in interpersonal relationships, or how you do business or commerce, or even artistic expressions, or anything, and that's in the individual life. And I'm encouraging everyone to do that in social fabric too, in the terms of let's redefine what it is to be human. Like I told you, I had to come here and learn about money, and the food is locked up in the food box. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And that guy's homeless, and that guy doesn't have any food, and he can't get into the food box because he doesn't have the magical pieces of paper. Like, we need to change all of that, start a new chapter, and then we don't have to keep on continuing with that. I think that's like negative time looping stuff too.
Totally. So how does, so one, a few questions. One, do you help people guiding them for soul retrieval?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much. So I do one-on-one sessions, and I tend to focus a lot of that work on, like, I'm a star person, and I tend to focus on people who identify as star seeds or indigos, or people who are on their cosmic journey. But I try to help anyone, but that's just my focus and my flavor. And so, yeah, I do. I have all sorts of different tools in my tool belt for helping people to understand their journey more. And I try very hard to respect personal freedom. Like, all of that's one of the values of my Aurora Collective, that each, like, it's a cosmic law of personal freedom. So each person is on their journey. You are free to choose and go where you wish to go. But, and also, it's wonderful to have support, encouragement, and helpful direction from other people on your journey. So that is what I try to give from my own wisdom of experience, be a support for others as they're making their own choices about where to go and how to go through life. Like I said, rectifying and healing from the past. Some of it is healing from, like, trauma that might be physical, or from sexual violence, or from even a car accident or something like that, or negative expectations, or things that were imprinted from previous generations, like from grandparents, parents or grandparents' generation might have done something like giving you a story of the world, like, okay, kid, like, sit down. I'm going to tell you how the world is like this is what it's like, and then you're going to have to deal with it. And you're this little kid, and you're like, okay, like, I listened to you and I learned from you. But then now in adulthood, it's the opportunity to reassess all of that, whether it's going in a positive direction. So I also do, like, help with creativity, because I'm an artist and a musician, because that is also a big part of soul expression, of helping, of that. I feel like music feeds your soul, expressing who you are, being creative, being artistic, all of that is an expression of who you are. So yeah, I also help people in the sense of being a creative mentor, like helping them on the creative path, guiding them, keeping them. I'm a coach. I'm like, keep going. Like, did you do your thing today? Do your thing. Yeah, so I do all of that type of stuff.
Well, that's wonderful. Regarding a balance, if there's such a thing as balance between, so I'm remembering the book Tao Te Ching, and he talks about, I think there's one passage that talks about that the world is, I think there's nothing to be done with the world. Like, the world is perfect, there's zero to be done. And then there are books that talk about, if we don't do anything, the world's going to be the same. So is there such a balance where you come from, as in everyone is whole, perfect, and complete, and we need to do something to improve the state of affairs? Like, is there such a thing? Is there such a balance? Is there a mindset? How does it go with actions or inaction? Because some people go in the stoic, or I don't know if it's stoic is the right word of inaction, where it's, I'm zen with what is. And others go to another corner of, I need to do something about this. So how people, where you come from, Female Collective, is there such a conversation up there?
Absolutely. I love the direction and thoughtfulness of your question. So the answer comes from a definition of what it is to be in the heart in unconditional love. Unconditional love, like you describe in many ways, has to do with the attitude or the foundation stance of the acceptance of saying, this is what it is. I accept what things are. So there are whole entire, let's say, races or species, for lack of a better word, but let's say whole entire groups of higher dimensional beings that embrace and exemplify that approach of acceptance, beingness, knowingness. It is what it is, without the sense of personal motivation of, like, I have to intervene. They are non-interventionists. They are not motivated. They're at that level of, la, like I'm making a tone la, like I accept everything. It is what it is. I can't do anything about it. And that is a sacred and divine tone to make. And then I'm clearly not that in the direction where and motivation where I came from, because if I were, I would not have created Flying Rainbow Lasagna. I would not have come into a body. I would not be making art and music and talking and making videos and doing all these things. So there's other flavors of acceptance that are also the acceptance of self-response and self-motivation. And so when I, as a cosmic presence, saw what I considered to be a cosmic injustice, I didn't just say, that's cosmic injustice and it is what it is, but I live up here and I'm kind of in a floating state and I don't do anything about it, like kind of that neutral. I was like, that makes me feel wrong. I love and accept that sense of personal motivation inside of me. Like I am going to roll up my sleeves. Something is not okay. I am diving in and doing something. And I direct that compassion and love and acceptance to myself and my own response. And it means that I had something to learn from my activities, that it wasn't enough for me just to be like, yep, I'm looking at this. I'm in viewership or in observership mode. I'm perceiving, but not acting and interacting. I am very much like anybody who's here, if we're in embodiment, we're here because we have some motivation, some lesson to learn. There's a reason for being here as opposed to just being in a floating state and just making that beautiful acceptance noise, la, everything's fine. I think we're all here because we're like, no, like we got something to learn. So my acceptance of myself is that I had something to learn by directly intervening and having the desire to change. And that the cosmic music, the beauty of, let's say, the great composer, the great conductor, that is this enormous intelligence that's making everything happen, there's a balance of different beings in the orchestra. Some being, when you're in an orchestra, sometimes you rest, you put your flute down, you're like, no, it's not time for me to play. And sometimes it's like, oh, violins, get ready, it's time for you to play. So each person, you are guided by your heart. And that's what real compassion is about, whether it is time to just be in that restful, completely peaceful, completely accepting state of non-interventionism, or is it time to pick up your instrument and play because it's your part in the symphony, where it's like, no, you need to play and get on it now because that's your part to do. So that is it, and no one else can. There's a balance. No one else can define your role for you. It is all completely coming from within. And then that's also the self-acceptance and self-responsibility. Like if I chose to be in non-interventionism and non-interactiveness, that is my choice here. If I chose to dive in and do stuff and make stuff happen, that is my choice too. And then you take the lessons or reverberations of responsibility from either or, even with the spoiler alert, knowing that you're both of these things, doing both of these approaches in the cosmic symphony.
Oh, wow, that's just glorious. And speaking of the cosmic symphony and music and tones and tonality, lately I've noticed that when people use their voice in a certain way with musicality, that their vibration changes.
Right.
What have you noticed that how music can affect either negatively or positively human beings?
Music is so powerful. So our voice and just verbalizing, like that's a powerful thing. We're using our larynx to literally vibrate the air that's around, but we usually use it for mundane chit-chatty conversation. Like, can you pass the ketchup? How you doing? Let's go buy some toilet paper, like regular things. I know. But in another time and place, like when we were purely telepathic as a society, we would mostly speak with our minds, and using our voices was considered only for very formal forms of communication, like intonations, because we really have to understand, and humanity is really getting up to speed on this. When you speak something, it puts energy out there that is powerful. So just the words that you choose to speak and when you choose to speak, like be mindful of all of that. But really singing and chanting and toning are really powerful. This is a portal. I'm pointing to my throat if anyone's just doing audio. Like your throat chakra is a portal. It's a way that energy comes into and out of your body, and that you can sing health into your own body. You can sing health into other people's bodies. and the tones and frequencies themselves are really powerful. So first, just starting with your own voice and doing different exercises, like, singing through your chakras or energy centers, that kind of like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and going up the scale of the ladder of your being as you sing, and then I'm feeling so great. That's really powerful to do stuff like that, but also the music that you choose to expose yourself to, because we're in a ocean of frequencies, like all of these different waveforms, and they all affect our body. So some things we're not in control of. They're just out there. They're just part of what's the soup that we're swimming around in. But then if we have some control, we can say, well, something, if I'm going to put on Mozart, like that's beautiful, organized sound waves that literally they transform, they not just vibrating your eardrums or the little parts of your ears that you hear with, it vibrates your skin, your cell membranes, your diaphragm, the bottoms of your feet, like your inner organs, fascia of your muscles. Like music really feeds your body and is transformative. So I practice mindfulness about the words that I use and how I use my voice. And I do try to sing health into myself and into the world. Like I will take some time, I do sun gazing, I gaze at the sun, and as the light comes into me, sometimes I just sing and just let it come out. And I encourage people to do that too, but don't stare directly at the sun with your eyes. Like I keep my eyes closed, but I stare with my inner eye and I just let that light come into me. But then I'm also really mindful about the music that I choose in my environment. And I try to choose things that have positive lyrics or give me a good feeling or make my body feel better. And I know, like, sometimes, I mean, if you're depressed, you can listen to depressed, sad music because that can help. That can be like, like the purge or the tonic or the homeopathic remedy. Like I listened to the sad song and I cried and then I felt better afterwards. But there are some musics that are very like dissonant tones or very agitating. And then I wouldn't want that to be in my environment because I don't necessarily want to be taking a bath in all of that. So I love sound baths, things that are made with, resonant like crystal chalices or chimes and gongs. Those have been shown to have a measurable somatic change. They literally change the shape of the cell structure in your body, that if you do that on a regular basis, it can be so healing and so wonderful. And like I'm in a place, like you heard the sirens out my window. I'm in a city, so I'm exposed, like many people, to all these things, honk, honk, loud sirens, all these different things. Sometimes it can be really beautiful to go to a place in nature where you hear birds or trickling water or just the chirping of insects, and that's our true state of beingness in embodiment in humans. Like our true state is not to live in cities and to have honk honk sirens and all of the disruptions going on outside of our windows. So take time, if you have a place to, or make time to be able to get into nature and be bathed in those. And if you can't, that's okay. Get some of those nature sounds and put the nature sounds on and into an envisionment that you are there. It's very powerful, and I think it is a reconnection to the divine consciousness that is just like the abstract divinity beyond any definitions of religions or sects or denominations or whatever. Is a way of reconnecting with the divine, reconnecting with the creator, reconnecting with the true definition of who we are as beings that then secondarily have biological containers and are here and defined as humans.
Oh, wonderful. Aurora, I feel like we can talk for hours. How about we start wrapping up? We can do a part 2. My intention for this call was literally to have 15 minutes chit chat so we could schedule our time for a podcast, but this is going to be the podcast. So we could definitely have part 2 because I have more questions. Where can people find you?
So the easiest answer to that, I know more sirens are outside of my window.
I mean, that's the time. That's the calling. That's the help call.
That's right. Help is on the way. The easiest thing to do is do an internet search for the 3 words flying rainbow lasagna. And lasagna is spelled Lasagne. There's an E on the end. And you will find my website. Like from my website, you can find, I have a class that is ongoing that's called Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, where I teach all about these things. You can find personal sessions. I do lots of music. So if you do that keyword search, a lot of my music should come up too, like on Apple Music or Amazon or any of those places. I also have an Etsy shop where you can find different prints of my work and different things like clothing that I make, because I'm very big again on putting these colors and positive vibrations and frequencies into your daily whatever you do, like on your clothes, on your t-shirts, and what you wear and what you look at in your environment. So yeah, I have a YouTube channel too that I invite everyone to check out, because I do my live lectures from my webinars are all archived on there for many years. So just keyword search flying rainbow lasagna and you will find me.
Amazing. I found you there. Easy to find. Let's see, how can we wrap up? Okay, if I think, okay, this would be the question regarding energy
Okay.
or energetic or being energetic. So the way I experience you is you being with lots of energy. So do you keep your energy like that in most waking hours, or do you go into, say, performance mode, such as now, or if there's such a thing, or are you always like this, or do you have time where you're more mellow? And the reason this question is, some people that I encounter, most of them, they don't have high levels of energy.
Yes.
And I started, chit-chatting with my friends, saying, realizing that I was probably one with the highest level of energy among my friends. So I'm like, hey, are you happy with your energy level? Questions like that. And sometimes it's yes, sometimes say no. And the answer came from, I guess, a source of, I wish I was more inspired, more motivated, or I wish I was doing more, accomplishing more. So what would be a piece of advice when it comes to having higher levels of energy that are sustainable for the human body?
Such a good question. And I will also answer. I'm always like this, sometimes even more energetic. I'm an active dreamer at night. So I'm doing my stuff in my dream world. I'm doing this when I'm waking up. I'm super energetic. Energy is like money. So sometimes like you might be energetically wealthy if you get suddenly like a great burst of energy, a lot of ideas, a lot of creative inspiration. The key thing to do in those moments is to foster your energy. So it would just be like, let's say like you got a big lottery ticket, you won like thousands of dollars. Don't blow it. Like, don't just all spend it in an unworthy way. Save some of your energy, save some of your money, or invest it into things that are long-term things that give you energy back. So when you're in a great mood, that is a great time to work on projects that really matter. Creative art, music, or writing projects. Or when you're in a great mood with high energy, that is a great time to invest in relationships with other living beings. That can be having a great phone conversation with someone, petting and hugging your dog, because I have a beautiful dog, taking care of your garden. All of these living beings and living relationships, when you are low on energy, will give back to you. That's really, really big and important. Having a network of real love and real social presence is essential, just like having a garden is essential. You spend time growing your garden, and then when you're hungry, it's got all this beautiful stuff that's there in order to nourish you. So everybody has oscillations. That is normal. That is the human condition. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. Sometimes you're wealthy and won the lottery. Sometimes you're like got $5 and you're not feeling that great. And the times when your wallet is energetically very empty, that is when it's appropriate to turn to others that you have uplifted, or that you have cultivated, or that you've given to when you were feeling great, and be like, I am feeling so poor today. I am not doing that well. And that someone else will be like, well, like, here's some inspiration. Here's a hug. Hugs. Okay, when you are energetically wealthy and you hug another person, your energy goes to them. But when you are feeling energetically poor and you need to get a hug, you get energy from someone else's hug. So I know pandemic has changed a lot of social presences and the way that people, I'm a big hugger and I love hugging people when I meet them. But just keep that in mind. The idea of like, when you're feeling great, send out positivity to others, even if it's by an email or digital writing. And then when you're not feeling great, others will be there for you in order to reflect it back to you. And that's what real love is. It's a real like a flowing of energy, kind of like an economy or a currency, but in a very, not like, the way with money, everything is like, I do this for you, you do this for me. Love is like an unconditional giving. Like, I got enough, I'm giving it out to you. And then you know that when you need some, it comes back to you too. So the real answer to how to be more energetic is being in that divine flow of love, because really all of that love, I'm pointing out my window now to the sun in the sky, the stars, that presence of pure light that I consider to be divine, that's where all this love really comes from. And then it comes secondarily from each one of us to one another. So just keep that in mind. Like there's always enough. There's an infinite supply of light. There's an infinite supply of this like divine love. When you're feeling wealthy, send it out. And then when you need it, ask for it, and others will give it to you too.
Aurora, thank you so much for sharing your love and your energy with me and everyone that's going to hear and watch this later today and for the next weeks and months and years. I look forward to speaking with you again. Yes, I have more questions.
Your questions are great. So good.
It's been a pleasure. So let's schedule sometime, say for next week. And then if you have the availability, I've loved this time. I've learned a lot, and look forward to next time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fernando. I am hugging you through the screen.
Woo! Yes, feeling it. Okay. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.